Welcome everyone, this is Pineleaf Needles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Andang,
Hey everybody.
Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Maven,
Hey, y'all.
Erith Erith,
Hello.
and Carvet.
At your service and your families.
And today we have no really big news. Apparently the people at Turbine are also taking holidays. So we'll go straight to the store sales.
Well, there is a new build on Bullroar, but I didn't feel a
Yes,
need
there
to
is.
do an article on it because there's not a whole lot changed.
There's actually a
There's
lot
some
of
changes,
nice stuff if you're in the Moors.
Well,
if you're into PvP, it's a lot. If you're not, it's like absolutely nothing.
Right there, why don't you go
But
ahead
if
and...
you're into PvP, why would you be in the Moors? I thought you'd be in...
That's a good
Well,
point.
This is true. Well, right now you would be in the Moors, but you'd be expecting to someday futurely, it's not a word, to someday,
Naturally.
yeah, absolutely, to someday in the future. You know what?
Do you want a
I'm
shovel,
sticking with it.
Erith? I'll give you a shovel.
Huh?
The thing I like about him is he's so eloquent. Erith is so eloquent. He gets right to the
Goddamn.
point.
I
But-
got them eloquential knowledge stuff.
Yeah, Carve does redneck better. So...
It wasn't supposed to be redneck. That was supposed to be hillbilly. There's a difference.
Oh, wow, excuse me.
There's a difference. That's right.
So what all did they change, Erith? Main things, like big things, what they change in PvP?
Big things. There's a little bit of cosmetic stuff changes for the cosmetic weapons. For the PvP, there's a lot of like really tiny little things. A lot of different things that are related to class. Things like the Blood of Fire, for example, for orcs is more useful now. It just balancing, slow starts of balancing, and they
That's
also
good.
looked at the instances and balanced a few of the things in the Osgiliath instances as well.
Cool.
And the chests, the final chests in Osgiliath instances also drop Morgul Crest now, and not just the challenge chests.
Awesome.
So you can get more Morgul Crest, so you can get the 5-slot gear a lot easier. And they finally unlinked the Ettenmoors in Osgiliath, so the Ettenmoors buffs don't work in Osgiliath anymore.
Alright.
So,
Cool.
little things, but all add up to make a nice change.
Cool.
Well, I know that a lot of the stuff that was in the patch notes was actually stuff from the first build that just didn't actually get put into a post about what the patch
Yeah.
notes were.
Yeah. But like they did add 20% more morale to all the creeps and like 20% less damage, like less incoming damage. And they
Yeah.
adjusted audacity for both sides so it works a little differently on either side. So that's good.
Awesome.
They're working on balancing it slowly.
All right, so we can only hope that they have the balancing in a reasonable spot when the actual final release comes.
That is the hope. I think what they're going to do is, because a lot of people are testing it, when they first, I believe when they did imbuement, there's not a lot of people out there testing, but they're out, every time I've gone out, it's packed. Tons of people testing, and I would imagine that those people are providing feedback as well. So I think they're going to have enough testing beforehand that it'll be comparatively balanced when it does come out, which I'm
Well,
excited for.
Part of the issue is that each server balance is different
Yeah.
because
this is
people are different ranks and things like that. And with everyone on
different sizes.
Bullroar, everyone's rank 15, which is not the most accurate.
Right.
And so it'll definitely require going to live to make it be really balanced.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what all happens with that.
Yep.
All right, then let's head into our store sales. And
Yeah.
Terry, what's for sale this week?
Okay, so our free sample of the week this week, July 3rd through the 9th, is a Skill and Slayer Deed Boost ×1. Use coupon code SSDB1, one time per account. We also have 25% off some legendary stuff. Legendary level cap increase, legendary item stat upgrade, relics and relic paths. We also have 75, don't care. 75. I never spend turbine points on legendary stuff. It's ridiculous.
I just thought it was
75%.
funny that you're just channeling your Draculetta there for a little bit.
Well,
Well, she
this
took
is one
over
of
the
the few
store.
things that I can make it great fun. 75% off the LOTRO market and the turbine market, which is a lot of stuff. I'm not going to read off everything that's on sale. You guys can go look at the article on the website.
Mostly expansions.
And then expansions, skirmish packs, and some steed
Quest
packs. Steeds too.
Yeah.
The steed packs.
Ooh,
Get your horse on.
LOTRO Steam content is on sale.
I don't think you're gonna make it through the store sales, too. People are just gonna keep interrupting you.
I'm done.
Dude. Sorry. I just saw that the heavy armor steed pack is like less than 20
Not really
bucks.
cheap. 75% off.
Oh my gosh. No.
I think I know what I'm gonna get tonight. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
No, you
Anything
won't.
else?
Go ahead,
No,
Terry.
you
No, I said I'm
won't.
done.
Very
All right,
well.
I
He's
said
done.
that Steam content is on sale. Nobody heard me because everybody else was talking, but I said it.
I heard it. I heard it.
Steam stuff is on sale.
Very well. Let's go into the site news. And the first bit of news is that we have a trailer out for the Lore series.
Yay!
Yes, just over a month late. But that's okay, because it's out now, and we're actually moving forward with Middle-earth Lore, and so far, feedback has been amazing for this trailer. It seems like a lot of people like it. We've been getting tons of views on it, so thank you everyone for supporting it and sharing it and doing all that stuff. We're definitely going to need your support if we're going to keep doing the Lore series, because it takes so much time, and so like once we release our first episode, we're really going to need a lot of support from you guys, but you know, if it's
Yeah,
good,
a lot of sharing. A lot
it
of
should be
sharing.
good.
Share,
Yeah.
share. And if this trailer is actually a teaser in the true Peter Jackson style.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly a teaser.
Yeah.
You know.
Peter Jackson style.
Yeah, you know, where he just gives you just a little taste, just itty bitty. Just remember how the teaser was? I can't remember
Well,
if he did one.
It's enough for you to be like, ooh, but not enough for you to be like, oh, okay.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
the reason I made it so short is because I figured people have seen LOTRO. We don't need to extend that out too long. And so I made it a 20-second trailer because, first of all, that's actually the trailer is also the introduction for each episode, every
Right.
single episode.
Right.
And so
But now,
that
don't forget that we talked about it going beyond LOTRO, so folks should, you know, this is, if you know anybody that likes Tolkien, right?
right.
They should go to them too, right? So
Yeah,
anyway.
and we're not using just LOTRO as our display. We're using maps and different games and all sorts of stuff. So really exciting stuff. And apparently birds are also interrupting the podcast.
He was
tonight.
very excited about it. Yeah, he was very excited when you said that.
Horses
so.
and birds. But yeah,
Here's
it's
one
a
more.
lot of fun doing this, and hopefully we'll have enough support to keep doing it in the future.
Very well then. Then let's go into Lotro and Lore, the shadows where the Kurgrim dwell. What's with lore concerning the Kurgrim?
Well, Pineleaf, did you read the article?
It's a
Not
rather
really, I just noticed that it
interesting-
existed.
It's a rather
Well, if you read the
interesting-
article, I'm pretty sure that that's what it tells you.
It's been
It
up
looks
for 2
like
days
he's
already.
quoting the Mulips though.
He is. He's making ties between it. The main thing of this series is not necessarily giving like the lore behind LOTRO stuff, but showing how LOTRO does certain things and they tie into the lore relating to other certain things in Tolkien. And so he's making these ties that you wouldn't normally make, and that's what I love about this article series, is that he's not just giving you the flat, like, this is the story behind this particular monster. He's actually going in and doing these ties and showing how Turbine might have actually, created it, which is way more interesting in my opinion.
Very well then. Our third little piece is Piney Spectral Primer to Skirmishing the Siege of Gondaman. This is the second installment in the series where we'll be going through each of the skirmishes within the Lord of the Rings Online. And of course, we began with Tuckbros and Gondaman, and because these are the two free skirmishes that everybody has access to.
You know, Pineleaf, there was someone in the comments on this that said they were named Pineleaf, and they said that it takes about a month to do these articles. That's pretty impressive. Like, I mean, you clearly go into some major depth here to get these articles done. So hats off to you. There's so much data in those spreadsheets. It's just crazy. So thank you, Pineleaf, for doing those guides. People seem to really like them.
All right, thank you. So let's go. Then let's head on to LOTRO video highlights. Let me go.
Before we
And
go,
this is put up by you as
before we leave the pictorial primer,
right.
I just want to say that you can definitely tell that Pineleaf wrote these because there's such wonderful Pineleaf flavor sprinkled throughout. Like, for example, I was cruising through the Gondaman one this week, and I happened to find this little gem that I wanted to point out. This is where Pineleaf is discussing the various defenders that you'll find at the different points in Gondaman, and it compares the Gondaman guard to the Guardian trainer, and this is word for word what he wrote. This gate has one of two possible defenders, Mergeth and a Gondaman guard, each morale 23,156 at level 100. How are they different? I haven't the slightest idea. They both appear to die with the same alacrity. And I read that and I'm like, yeah, what's up? But I mean, I could hear Pineleaf saying, I haven't the slightest idea. I was just like, that is exactly his style. So you can almost hear Pineleaf speaking this to you as you read it. So check these out. These are fantastic.
Especially if you're Carve and have the Pineleaf voice actually able to be done vocally.
Right.
Okay.
We'll have to have Pineleaf we'll have to have Pineleaf do like a book on tape. You'll have to record these.
Like a
Or like a
technical
read-along.
report version of reading out.
Or like a read along where it gives a
we could
little.
have Audible carriers. You could have Audible carriers. People could buy it on Audible. Okay, I'll stop now.
Of a skirmish guide?
I'm kidding. Pineleaf, I'm kidding.
Let's
I
go
think
to
you
the video highlights.
Let me go.
Yeah, let you go. All right, Pineleaf. Well, you can't escape the podcast.
No.
You can escape the creepy lover that's trying to force you to love you. So that's what this video's about. And it's actually pretty cool. They do some funny things, like make the Palantir be a TV and stuff like that. It's just hilarious. So I really recommend this. They did some funny transposing between the lyrics and the visuals.
All right, then let's go into Poems of the Pine, and we finally made it up to book 1 of the epic storyline.
Yay!
Yay! So now,
Cool.
so if you've been worried about what's going to happen to Amdir, then we answer that in this week's episode. This is the first of 2 installments that we'll have for book 1, because we'll be finishing up book 1, because we had the Black Wolves thing all happening in the early part of it. That's getting 1 installment. Then we'll do the rest with those Nazgul birds and Tom Bombadil and all that stuff.
You're gonna do Tom Bombadil in one poem, Pineleaf?
Well,
I mean, Tolkien already
he's not
did,
going to.
like,
We're
books
not
of-
going to talk too
of
much
old-
about Tom there.
Yeah, we're not talking about the adventures of Tom Bombadil here. We're
Go
just
read what
talking
Tolkien
about
wrote
book 1 of the epic story in LOTRO.
Right.
Can you work in KB Stealer somewhere in the poem?
Heck yeah.
What?
He steals
When you're
the killing
when
blow.
you're fighting the guy and he comes in and you're
I
like
was just gonna
surviving,
say that.
and you like the times when you get close and you're like, I'm gonna kill him, and then Tom Bombadil's like, lol, nope.
Why do you think he's such a
I
merry
know.
fellow? It's because he comes in
Oh.
and steals everybody's kills.
You should do a
That's
poem
right.
called, Tom Bombadil the Interrupter or something like that. Although I did hear that it used to be worse, so you got robbed of the XP for killing the guy because Tom killed him.
Yep.
At least they fixed that apparently.
Yeah. But anyway,
All
good
right.
poem, Pineleaf.
Thank you. And we also have a new installment of The Family Line, Part 51. And
I would
oh
just like to
boy, I
say that
forgot to read it this week.
the end of this was pretty epic.
Yeah.
It was like, ha!
Oh snap! I haven't read that one yet. I'm behind.
And
No.
my guardian makes another appearance,
Ooh,
which is exciting because I didn't know about it this week.
is it
Like I
exciting for you
photoshopped.
or for the people reading it?
It's exciting for people reading it, not just me.
Is it a day to be excited upon? We don't know. Read the story and find out.
Exactly.
Very well then. This week's new player question is sent by a special representative to the show to sponsor the new player question.
Oh crap! I don't have
Oh.
it pulled up. 1 second.
Technical
We
took
here
this-
at Lalia's Market do not claim responsibility for any special guests that may or may not be on time for the show. However, during the brief recess, we will let you know that Lalia's this week is having a special on cram, pies, and, well, you know, just come on down and see what you have. Because, frankly, at Lalia's, we're here for your needs.
That works.
Boy,
Okay.
that girl's expanding.
I have it now.
She has
Um,
a kitchen now?
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Guess
various
so.
sundry.
It's a hub.
Have you seen Lalia's Market in Bree? They've got
Well, I
all
mean, she's a
kinds of
hobbit,
stalls. Not to mention, there's an entire upper floor, I think, that they haven't even expanded into yet.
Well, and keep in mind, she got the LOTRO Players News bump. So she's doing way better with her business after advertising on,
She
LOTRO
did,
Players
and
News.
she's like,
right.
she's getting sponsors
Yeah.
here too.
Yeah.
True.
But didn't
Mhm.
her? But what about her competitors? Haven't they also started the sponsoring here?
Oh yeah, we did last
Oh
week.
yeah,
didn't we?
man!
We had
Smiths
the-
and Weapons Outfitters. They actually sent me a note the other day. It was kind of a smelly parchment, but they were saying that after the ad last week, they saw a 20% increase in their recycled armor program.
So naturally, Lalia's Market had to kind of up the scale and bring in a high quality spokesperson. So here we go. Greetings, Kermit the Frog here, and today I'd like to talk to you about flies. Now, not everyone likes flies as much as I do, and not everyone is as gifted with as great a tongue as I am. You might find defiler flies useless and annoying. And what about those swarms that notice you moving and follow you halfway to Mordor? You know what you need? You need Midgewater Magnet Flypaper. It'll catch more flies than vinegar and you'll be annoyance-free. It's not as good as having a tongue like me, but if you're not green, it's the next best thing. Midgewater Magnet Flypaper, available in swarm and sickle fly sizes at a Lalia's Market near you. Yay!
Swarm and sickle fly sizes.
That was well worth the wait, Erith.
That was. That was.
So
Yeah,
what
the
is the
only
new player
problem-
question?
I was just gonna say the only problem with this is the new player question now becomes like a letdown. After this. So I tried. I usually try to match up the question with it's like what's going on in the store and whatnot. So with the expansions for sale this week or however many days it's going to be, I wanted to remind or remind us or whatever. Free to play players have a certain distance or a certain number of quests or certain areas they can go to before they have to start spending money, and also VIP players do too. VIP players don't get like the full range of Middle Earth for their fee. So if you would remind us, what do free to play players have? Where do they need to start spending money, and where do VIP players need to start spending money when it comes to the various areas?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
so
right now,
free to
VIP
play
players spend it as soon as they hit the spend button. I mean, it's there.
As soon as they leave Bree, right?
No, but seriously, no, go ahead.
in all seriousness, the free-to-play players, basically they have access to the Epic Story up until Helm's Deep, where they don't have access to any of those 3 books. And then they have access again with Volume 4 of that Epic Story. They get a few skirmishes for free, plus the ones in the Epic during Moria and Mirkwood. And they also get the Shire, all the starter zones, and the Lone Lands for free. Aside from that, that's pretty much all free players get. Premium means that you spent money and there's no real change in like the actual like real content you get. There's other changes which you can read about on LOTRO.com. They have a guide of how all this is broken down. And then VIP players get all non-expansion zones for free as long as they keep paying. And so they do have to buy the expansions, which there's...
So they basically get all of Eriador, in other words.
Well,
Yeah.
they actually get every single... They get all of Gondor. They get all the side zones that were given over the years that weren't with the expansions. So Inedwythe,
Great River.
Great River, and
wow.
Wildermore. So VIPs actually get a lot of stuff for free as long as they keep paying. They do have to buy expansions though, which includes Moria, Mirkwood, and Moria actually includes Lothlorien, I believe.
Yes.
And they get
Rohan, right?
Isengard, Rohan, and Helm's Deep, which is really just the other half of Rohan.
Okay.
That being
I just think it's
said,
good to review that because it's sometimes hard to remember. Like I wandered into a range. I'm a VIP player, but I wonder, it's like, what are those weird circles those guys have over their heads? I'm like, oh, that means spend money to talk to me.
that
The
being
ones with the
said,
turbine logos on them.
that being said,
Yeah, that's the turbine logo.
if you
Yeah.
already are VIP, you get the turbine points every month in your
Yep.
account, and you can use those
Right.
to buy those expansions. So
That's true.
you don't have to spend anything past VIP. Same thing with free to play. I know several people that play completely free to play. They have
Right.
done deeds and stuff and unlock everything with turbine points. So it's possible to never actually have to spend a single penny on this game if you don't want to,
Right.
if you have the time to do so.
That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else concerning the new player question? Then let's head into our week in LOTRO. Erith there, what did you do this week?
I did a lunch run. Well, two lunch run. Well, one lunch run. I did a lunch run. Eldar, it was going to be on Eldar and Dwerodelf. Eldar did not show up, unfortunately. It's kind of hard because it's like 1 a.m. over in France when I come onto their server. I'm like, hey, what's the really chicken places? And they're all like, I want to go to sleep. So Eldar didn't really, nobody showed up on that one. But Dwerodelf, we had a huge crew come out. It was like 18-something people. And had a to the second tie for 6th place. It was pretty amazing.
Where is Dwerodelf? Where is Dwerodelf? Is it over in Europe also?
Say what?
Where is Dwerodelf? I can never say that.
Oh, like it's
Is it
a
also
North
European?
American server. No, it's a North
it is,
American
okay.
server. I've been doing like one European server first, so get them when it's slightly earlier, and then do
Right.
the North American servers later. Of course, there are some people that do stay up, and we had somebody who's like, all right, it's 4 a.m. I'm going to go to bed now. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. So people show up, some people do, some people don't. But it was a really cool run. So that was one thing. A to the second tie for 6th place. And then I hit rank 7 on my Guardian after the podcast last weekend. I was like, I'm going to get rank 7. So I got on LOTRO after the podcast and I got rank 7. It was a lot of fun. And then my main thing of the week is serious armor drama. Somehow, during that Moors session, an armor piece disappeared. Like my heavy Nadhin armor slotted essence piece with the only thing that I had Supreme Morales on, and there were 3 of them on it, just totally disappeared. I must have destroyed it somehow, but I went through like this whole like sending tickets and getting closed because they would look at them when I wasn't online, and then they couldn't find that I'd ever owned the piece. Like all these things, like 5 or 6 tries, and they finally, Spectre Vortex, sent me another bit of armor, which I was very relieved at because I was super bummed because it's a lot of work to get the Supreme stuff and all that jazz. So I was very happy that I got it back. So that took up like 3 or 4 days of my playtime, just wondering about that. So yeah, but overall it was a fun week.
So when's your court appearance date for murdering armor, Erithert?
Huh?
You said you had serious armor drama and it went missing. So
I'm not
something
turning it
happened.
into a reality TV show.
I just figured,
Although
eventually
that's not
there'd
a
be
bad
some Law and
idea.
Order music playing, and
That's not a bad idea. I am working on like getting more stuff on YouTube. Maybe I'll do like an armor drama show.
a Law and Order armor drama show.
Sure.
Arm and Robber.
Armor drama.
It's actually weird because after I said that and I told like my chat and they were like, I've had something like 3 or 4 people were like, I've had random things disappear out of my inventory too, and I'm like, oh, so not just armor, but like a quest item here and something else there. It was interesting, but cool stuff. I think Terry did it,
Terry totally did it.
working on her deed.
Carpet.
Carve, what's your week? Let's go,
He
buddy.
says,
Wait for Carver to go.
we're skip him out for the
Carver
moment.
to say
he said.
what?
He said to skip him for the moment. We're coming back to him.
Oh, he did.
All right, and dang then.
All right, we're going out of order, Pineleaf. Are you gonna be okay? All right, yes, I found out that an instance is actually not repeatable. The Fellowship departing Rivendell is not repeatable. And this made me super angry, because guess what? The Frodo walk is the one where you get to like walk around with him and it's real boring. That one's repeatable, so you can repeatedly bore yourself by talking to Frodo about something that you're not supposed to know about. Or you could do the thing that you can't repeat, which is the Fellowship departs, which is just ridiculous. I can't believe that it's not repeatable, and I had to film it, which made it even that much worse. But even if I didn't have to film it, I'm just shocked that this is not repeatable. You can, somebody says game sessions from the book in Rivendell. I looked through that whole book. It's not there. There's plenty of other session plays that are there. There's plenty of other instances that are there in Rivendell. This is not there. I had Carve look. I had Terry look. It's not there. And it's really silly. I don't know why they wouldn't make it be repeatable. Also power leveled my captain just to do the Fellowship Departs instance, so that I can actually go through it. And so big thanks to Terry, Trish, Sprydra, Carve for helping me power level, doing skirmishes again and again and again and again and again
And again.
and again. So thanks for that. And it turned out that might not have even needed to film it in the first place because lots of floating text that you can't turn off either, which is another annoyance that I have. But on the pro side, I did film a lot of Middle-earth lore stuff and had a lot of fun with that. So let's go ahead and move on to Maven. What do you do this week?
What did I do this week? Wait a minute, hold on. Such a list. What a list I have. I'm way down at the bottom because I was putting in a. Okay, so I unintentionally over-leveled my Arkenstone Hobbit Hunter. This is the Civ brain that I have. So Pineleaf and Terry had gotten to a certain point on Arkenstone, and I wanted to catch up with them. And all I remembered Terry saying was 45, level 45. What she had actually said to me was that they're working on getting up to level 45. And I didn't remember that. So I leveled my Hobbit up to 45, and they were at 43. So, I made a mistake. And then I skirmished, and I skirmished, and I skirmished, which for me is actually quite amazing. So not only did I help Andang, although I only helped you the one day, but today, actually, before LPN, we skirmished a whole lot to work on getting Pineleaf and Terry up to 45. So anyway, there was that. And then I hit some hitherto unvisited areas of Moria with Sprydra and Terry, and that was fun. We went into the Silvertine Lodes, and there were some areas I hadn't been into, so that was kind of cool because I had not planned to go back to Moria, so it was nice to have some company running around trying to figure out where to go next. Other than that, it was just the usual gaming. Oh, and who was next? We've got
Carve's back.
Terry. Oh, Carve. What did you do this week in Lotro?
Well, I enjoyed playing through the Entwash in Rohan. Helped wake up some Ents in the Eves of Fangorn. I pulled a Jacksonian Denethor while I was questing. There's this cave full of drakes, and I fought my way up to the very top, and I killed the bad guy. Then I was like, dude, this is a really cool view. I am not fighting my way back to that cave of drakes. So I just jumped right off the top of the hill, flew through the air. It was a very spectacular death. And then hit the Reds ring on the way back to town. But I got up to 84, so Carvet is slowly moving his way up in the ladder, and hopefully at 85 I'll be able to get some cool armor and keep going. Me and Mrs. Carve decided to get out of Moria. We popped into Bree for some afternoon shopping. Discovered that winter had come, and the whole town was overrun by brigands. Really messed up the shopping expedition, so we had to fight them and get rid of them all. But we saved the day because we are the heroic duo that we are. That sounded way more epic than it probably was. We just ran a couple skirmishes. But we were doing the Bree skirmishes that night. And then we also were playing yesterday, and we discovered why some folks had such a hard time with the "we cannot get out" instance in Moria. Between the two of us, we started that thing 7 times.
What?
Because it kept bugging out to get both of our characters through that stupid instance. At one point, we were sounding the horn, sending orcs off the bridge, which was really fun.
Never sound the horn near the bridge.
Well, yeah, until the dwarf would follow the dwarf NPC you're supposed to escort, like, follows the orcs off the bridge. So that happened once. And then another time, the orcs went flying off the bridge, and he's like, I was going to hit that, and now I don't know what to do. So he just sat there with the anti-exploit question marks floating over his head. So then another time, and this happened on Mrs. Carr's computer. It didn't happen on mine. I was able to finish it on the 3rd time. That same dwarf with no horn on the bridge would beat the first 2 orcs, and he would just stand there, like waiting for something to happen. And after 5 minutes, I was like, all right, we'll start it again. So it took us 7 attempts on 2 characters to finally get that instance to be defeated. It was ridiculous.
Interesting.
So I'm like, it's not that we can't get out, it's we can't get past. Anyway.
It's been a long time since that one's given me trouble.
Yeah, I was like, I've done that thing at least 2 or 3 times in the past month. I just zipped right through it. But for some reason, with the 2 of us, it was like, are you kidding me?
What's interesting is it looks like the chat room has been having a ton of problems as well. They're all saying that it's MMO torture, and that's one of the worst instances, and stuff like that. Well, I mean, so it seems like you're not alone.
Like, first of all, it's a session play, so you're dealing with somebody who's got chant mechanics. And in one hand, if you're not used to that, that can be a pain in itself. But then, because it's got that one knockback horn attack, which is unlike anything in any character, you have to know when you can use it and when you can't use it. And as fun as it is to blast orcs off the bridge,
don't do it.
Don't do it, because it will bug out the instance. It's like, I've done it before going, hey, this is cool. But if that other dwarf that you're escorting decides that he wanted to kill that orc that you just knocked off, he will chase it to his death. And then it's like, you failed. Gee, thanks. You know, or worse, he just gets bugged out and says, now I don't know what to do.
Well, if you think about it, Carve, he knows that orc's down there. So he's got to go get it. They have to clear out all of Moria. There can't be any orcs anywhere in the zone.
Okay, did I just say anything improper in that last rant there? Like, did it sound like I said any dirty words?
If you did, we didn't notice. So
okay, because Eldeleth is all like, ooh, Carve said a bad word. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't think I did. It may have sounded that way, and I apologize if I did. I said bugged. Oh, is that the dirty word? Yes. Okay, so I think it's somebody else's turn now.
Terry Adwin, I think.
Okay. I did some more streaming this week. Landreval, Terry Adwin soloed her way through some tier 2 duo skirms, and that was fun. It's always nice to actually feel like my champion's doing some damage. Finished Volume 1 on my Runekeeper, and she's now working through Moria and the Volume 2 Epic, which I did some of that with Maven and Andang's sister Sprydra, which was a lot of fun. And then I did some of it with one of the guys in our Tuesday group who's trying to catch up to the rest of the group, except I was like way behind everybody because I was just starting, so we had to do some backtracking. So lots of Moria for the foreseeable future. And then earlier today we did lots of skirmishing. Yesterday I did lots of skirmishing. Wednesday I did lots of skirmishing, power leveling. I've done a lot of skirmishing this week. Arkenstone Terry is up to level 44, which means she's got another level to go before she can do the class quest. So, and I'm not looking fun. And that's the champion that feels like she's hitting at things with a wiffle ball bat, because level 44 you don't have as much stuff as you have at my Langeval Terry's got a first stage weapon. She's got all the essence gear. She's got this. She's got all the shinies. She's got a lot of epic battle jewelry. Lots of things. So when she hits stuff, it dies. Arkenstone Terry hits things and hits things and hits things, and then Pineclaw comes up and kills it. Or Maven's Hunter shoots it with a bow and it dies. And it's like, all right, I'm not sure why I'm here.
Yeah. You did spend a bit of time in tanking stance.
I did. I did
That's
blue
true.
line tanking today. Champion tanking is a little strange because you basically have to go up and let stuff hit you in the face to generate aggro.
I thought you did good. I mean, it's
I
level
feel like I might
44.
like champion tanking.
Yeah.
I'm like, hashtag face
fun.
first.
Yeah. Basically, the trick is you have to go in and get everything first, and you have to let it just beat on you before anybody else can start attacking, and then you're good.
But
I managed to keep
unfortunately,
everything's
you got so
attention, so-
frustrated with it that you decided to do Prancing Pony in damage stance.
Yeah, well, the problem
And then we
is
failed.
in blue line, I do like no damage. I was watching the numbers go up. It was like 5, 7, 27. I think I saw 67 once. I didn't see a single 3-digit number when I was hitting things in blue line stance. It's super frustrating. So, Pine Leaf, how was your week?
Yeah,
Very
blue
well.
champ tanking is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough
All
until you're at cap, because then you can go into another line that has DPS. So
Dude,
Yeah.
my blue line champ that I play sometimes on Tuesday nights, I am intentionally putting like a third of my points into yellow just to pick up Raging Blades. Because
Yeah.
it's like, otherwise I have very little AoE threat at all.
Or skills, period.
Yeah, I was complaining about that. Like, I'm feeling skill deficient. Oh, look,
Yeah.
everything's on cooldown. Oh, look, I have this great survival skill I don't need because I have a Runekeeper healer.
it's a lot better at cap.
Yeah, my
Right.
bad.
Right on my Gladden, my Bjorning there completed Book 2, Volume 7 in the Epic Storyline, and my challenge character has reached level 17. That's my
Whoa.
minstrel that's trying to see how far I can level, doing just Epic Storyline skirmishes, class quests, and
Wow.
racial quests, those type of things. And I've been running a great deal of Gondaman and Amansul in working on my skirmish guides, which is probably why those are the only 2 skirmishes we did not do tonight when I was doing skirmishes.
I was just thinking that when you said them, I'm like, well, we didn't do those.
I'm done with Gondaman and Amonsul.
So let's head into our skirmish of the week. And the topic for this week is, what are the pros and cons of Mirkwood? And we will begin with Carvet. Carvet, what side are you taking?
Mirkwood, the books.
The book. On what stance?
Pro.
All right. Terry.
I'm going to do the con of the books.
All right, then. Erith, what are you taking?
I'm going to be taking the bonus, like the good parts about the films, so the pros.
Okay. And Maven, what stance are you taking?
I'm taking the bad parts of the films.
All right, so you'll be taking 5 times as long. I mean,
Yeah, right. Right. Stuff to make me stop talking.
Ending, what stance are you taking?
Well, Pinely, if you're ahead in the list, what are you going?
And you think I complain when we go out of order. Right, I'll be taking the pros for the game for Lotro and Dane.
I'm taking the cons for the games finally. If you're going down, that's why I wanted you to go for a second, so you're going down. But anyway.
Wow.
All right, then. Let's start out with the books. Carfette, what are the wonderful pros for the books and their description of Mirkwood?
Well, primarily I'm going to talk about the Mirkwood that we see in The Hobbit because that's what I know most of right now. Is that I like the way you get this impression that Mirkwood was a great force at one point, but over the years, all of the evil and corruption and just unwholesomeness that has crept in, especially the part of the woods that the dwarves and the hobbit have to walk through with, all these various things that are dark. Now, I know that there's really kind of two different parts of the woods they go through, and I think that's interesting how even though they are similarly described, you've got the part of the wood that's completely overrun by the spiders and the dark like squirrels and everything that causes the dwarves to nearly run out of all their provisions. But then there's also the part of the wood where the elves are, which is obviously a little bit better in terms of the atmosphere. But I like how Tolkien described this almost a monochromatic place they were in, where the woods were so dark and everything was so overwhelming. It wasn't even like they were in actual green wood. It was murky. It was a gray wood. That's kind of the impression I've always got, with the exception of the spot where it describes Bilbo climbing up the tree and poking his head above to where all the butterflies are. Mirkwood is a very kind of dark and closed in place, and I really enjoyed how Tolkien wrote that in the books. I also like how later on he says that it wasn't always that way. It was called
Yeah.
Greenwood the Great, but over the years it's gotten corrupted, and you come to find out later that Dol Guldur is there, and that was a place of the evil presence of Sauron under the guise of the necromancer, and there was all this other crazy stuff that was going on in Greenwood the Great, so it wasn't so great anymore, and property values plummeted and all that kind of jazz. But the idea that this was
Especially elven property values.
I know, right? I mean, the elves are just losing real estate deals left and right to spiders and orcs and wargs and all kind of stuff. But when you get right down to it, I like the way Tolkien described this particular forest as different from some of the other places they've been. Like, even though it wasn't necessarily supposed to be a place that was pure evil like you would get in a place like Angmar, it was very heavily evilly influenced and oppressed, and I really enjoyed how that kind of came across as the dwarves and the hobbit kind of munched their way through it.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to the pros carve is the path. The Elven Path that goes through Mirkwood. And I didn't even realize how cool a thing and mechanic it was until the Tolkien professor brought it up in his podcast. And it's just such a cool idea that there's this protected path that the elves have like put, a spell on essentially that makes it to where nothing will actually go onto the path. There's all this crazy stuff that's going on in Mirkwood, but the path is clear for the most part. And that's a really cool concept that Tolkien had, I think. And shows kind of how, even though the forest has been totally overrun, there's still that elven power that remains within the forest, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right. Terry, what are the cons of Mirkwood in the books?
Well, I didn't actually think it was all that creepy, evil, scary. I got oppressed. But we've talked before about how Tolkien doesn't always convey emotions all that well when we had our talk about the Nazgul. And I think this is another one of those places where you don't really get the sense of it's as filled with evil as we see illustrated in some other aspects, like the films, which not that great, but it's creepy. And the games, definitely you get this sense of the place needs some renovating seriously. It's like the haunted house of Middle Earth or something. Needs an exorcist.
Needs an
So
exorcist.
needs an exorcist. Yeah, and I was also a little irritated by the elves, that whole sequence with I mean, they're not the tra-la-la happy elves that we see in Rivendell, but they're still a little. It kind of made me roll my eyes in a couple of places. I did like, and I know I'm doing the cons, but one of the things I did like about the book is the way the tunnels were described
Yeah.
in the Elf King's castle, who, by the way, doesn't actually get named in The Hobbit. I know Jackson put
That's
a
right.
name on him, tacked a name on him later that came from the appendices, but it's like he didn't actually get around to naming the guy in The Hobbit. Apparently, Tolkien didn't
That's
think
right.
it was that important. But you also have to keep in mind that The Hobbit was a children's book, so.
And also, Bilbo did not think that elk riders should get into the book, clearly. They shouldn't be
That's right.
named. If you ride an elk, you're not going to be named in my book.
Yeah,
Hmm.
obviously.
Right, that's because if he did that, then Turbine would have to put elk mounts for us, and he saved
That's right.
Turbine the trouble of implementing elk mounts.
We already get enough calls for war pigs.
Yeah.
Surprised nobody's called for an elk
And war
yet.
goats and all that.
An elven elk mount with extra gore capacity and bleed damage. And it also dries your clothes after that unpromptu swim across the river. Coming to a lolly is near you.
All right, let's head into the films, and this time we are going to start with the cons. And Maven,
Oh, you rascal! You
Mm.
Okay, well, it's actually that's not a bad thing to do because what the things that I like about the book are what I missed in the films, and mainly it's the stuff that Andang was kind of referring to. In the book, Tolkien, the elves in Mirkwood are fairy elves. What I mean, Faerie elves. They're fairy elves. They're in the tradition of medieval fairy tales, and that's an area that Tolkien did a lot of work on. I mean, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and all of that stuff. And so the things like we did get to see the White Hart, but it wasn't quite the same. And the one thing I think I missed, besides the Elven Path that Andang referred to, was also the feasts. Where they in the books
Yeah.
they interrupted the feasts. And that's very Fairy-ian. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a trope of fairy practically. And I was hoping they would do some of that. And then the other thing, so then it was like, well, when that didn't happen, I was hoping that at least then we'd see the Feast of Starlight that Tariel, referred to, because I thought, okay, well, maybe that Jackson's going to have that be kind of the version.
If they had put that stuff in, they wouldn't have had time to have that scene where they attempt to turn Smaug into gold.
You're right, Pineleaf, and they also could not have had that elven salad eating in Rivendell if they would have put in the feast in Mirkwood. I mean, you gotta keep your
They couldn't have had all
priorities.
those witty lines between the dwarf and the
Okay,
elf.
okay.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the trebuchet, the dwarf in the barrel trebuchet scene with Bomber.
Yeah, it'd be a
That's right.
totally different, actually good movie, Pineleaf.
Yeah, right. It'd be totally different from the piece that we got.
And
I'm
the other
sorry,
thing
I
wasn't
still want
really
the
crazy
epic
about-
barrel spin.
The other thing I wasn't really crazy about was the way they portrayed the way they got disoriented in the woods. Now,
Yeah.
to offset that, I don't know how else they would have done it. I really honestly think that if we set for a few minutes, maybe a minute and a half, we probably could come up with a better way to do it. I wasn't really that thrilled with that. So anyway,
Oh,
I do
actually,
have. Go ahead, Pineleaf. You do your con, and then I'll
for
do mine.
me, the worst thing in the films, in addition to all the things you said, the worst thing in the films to me is when they are first in Mirkwood. I have never seen in my entire life a scene from a high budget movie that was so obviously filmed in a studio.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
the other thing too is the whole sped up timeline, because the movie makes it sound like they're in there for maybe a couple of days.
Oh,
And
good
you
grief.
get the sense from the book that he's there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, or
If not longer.
like a month, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bilbo out there for a long time.
Because he had time to memorize all the tunnels, and he was stealing provisions and all this other stuff. And
go out when the elves would go out, he'd follow them out, and then he'd sneak back in with them. They came back in.
Yeah. We didn't see any of that stuff. My biggest issue with the films and what they didn't do in Mirkwood was the spiders were so less as far as scale. Jackson's biggest strength is showing the scale of Middle-earth, and he totally missed it in Mirkwood. There's supposed to be a scene where there's 200 spiders chasing after the dwarves, or they're getting ready to eat the dwarves because they have them all tied up, and Bilbo's decides to take off his ring, yell at all of them, hey, come over here, and leads 200 spiders away from the dwarves so that they can get out of their the webbing and stuff and actually be safe. And so it's such a heroic moment for Bilbo, such a huge scale thing that would be perfect for Jackson, and it was not in there at all. And that was so disappointing because that is, out of all the scenes in Mirkwood, that's the one I thought would for sure Jackson would have. And when it wasn't there, I was shocked because it's so Jackson. And it was very, very disappointing for that part.
All right. Erith, why are the rest of us wrong?
Wow. Okay.
What a setup.
Yeah, thanks. Disclaimer at the beginning. This was the last option left.
And it's not a debate.
And it's not a debate. But that being said, like, I'm not a huge fan. Like, the second Hobbit movie is my least favorite by far. The first was great. The second ruined it for me. I would say that fairy, the concept of it, and it in general is completely absent from the films overall. So I don't know if it's fair to just single out Mirkwood as the one bad part like that. The feast isn't there, but the path totally is there. The fact, like, they're on it, and it's obvious when they walk in and they have the
it is there, but it's not really. You don't get to see what it's actually doing.
They lose it.
Here's the thing: it's like that's something that I think the movie does excellently well. The magic of the Forest, like magic with a capital M, fairy style magic. It doesn't talk about the good aspect of it, but the evil oppression feeling of the forest comes across very, very well in the movie. Best in the movie, I think, between all three of the books, the films, and the games. Because in the movie, you see them, I mean, it is comparatively hokey, and it's obviously done in a studio, but you get the disorienting sense and the unnaturalness of what's going on in that forest comes across great in the movie, I thought. As far as timeline, like, that's always compressed. Like, even in The Lord of the Rings, which was done very well, there doesn't say we're in Rivendell for 3 months before we leave. Like, you don't get that sense. So timeline in a movie has to be compressed, and that's just the nature of the medium. But I think the things that I like about it is that that magic of the forest, the oppressive, stifling atmosphere of the forest just is really well done in the movies, I thought. And the color of the movie, like the color palette, when you look at it, I was actually looking up screenshots. Fireworks are going off. I was looking up screenshots, and it's interesting to see the variance. When they're lost and in the woods, it's gray, it's murky. But in the Elven areas, it's green. Like, that's the primary color. So you really do get Greenwood the Great, where the elves still reign, and you get Mirkwood the murky, where they don't. And I think like that was something I didn't notice till I was browsing through screenshots. And I was like, wow, that's actually it's subtle, but it's well done.
And I did also like how they had the subterranean trees and stuff like that. That was pretty creative and cool looking.
Cool.
Like, in terms of, there's some things that they obviously could have done better, yes. But overall, with the limitations that they have, it was pretty good. And the spiders, I mean, that scene, I actually have the book in front of me, and I don't see anywhere where it says 200 spiders. Like, it talks about he kills half a dozen before the rest go off. And I'm like, okay, if he kills half a dozen, why are 194 spiders running away?
It's in there, trust me.
I'm trying to find it, but I must not be looking in the right spot. And
in the spirit of this is not a debate,
in the spirit,
I
it's not a debate. Like
I
the
do actually have to agree with Erith here. One of the things that I liked about Mirkwood was in the films is that you do actually get the sense that it's that it was originally a place of beauty, and
Yeah.
it's been corrupted over time, and there is that change of color palette. It's actually it's not just the greens that you see in it's actually there's a little hint of gold and stuff in there too, which
Mhm.
is very elven.
Yeah.
And something about the spiders, I was kind of disappointed because I was hoping they'd be bigger. But then I was like, well, then they'd be too Shelob-y because he made
Right.
Shelob. Like, you can't make them as big as Shelob because then what the heck's up with Shelob being the biggest, baddest, scary spider around?
I think they should have done more creative stuff, like kind of what they do in Lotro in that in certain places in Mirkwood actually, where they have the different kinds of spiders, where some have like really
Yeah.
thin legs and some have really thick legs, and there's all the different sizes,
Well,
and
they did show the little trapdoor spider.
they did,
That was
yeah.
interesting.
That was
So
kind
in
of
that one,
creepy.
that was creepy, yeah. Like, and you get, and that's the thing, you get this sense of creepy really well in the movie overall.
Mhm.
Whether it's the spiders, whether it's the oppression and like drugged disorientation, creepy is a good way to describe it. I think I like that.
Which I think was what makes the scene with Bilbo breaching the canopy that much more awesome, I think, in the movie, is
Hmm.
that is one of the scenes that I was looking forward to when I was watching it. I'm like, oh man, Bilbo's gonna breach the top, and it better look really cool. And when he did, I was like, oh, the purple butterflies are there, the forest is there, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That was really neat.
So can we say that they got the character of Mirkwood right? Because I consider Tolkien, like, the landscape is also a character in Tolkien. They got the character of Mirkwood right, they just didn't get the interaction between the other characters and Mirkwood right.
Now,
I'd say
let me
that's fair. Oh hey,
let me
fireworks
toss
going
this.
off
Yeah.
here too.
Let me toss this out to you guys. In Mirkwood, I felt like it was a little bit kind of hippie, psychedelic, acid trippy.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, there's
Yeah.
a rainbow here, but I guess they
That was
were
what I
kind
didn't
of
like
reaching
about it.
for that psychedelic trippiness. But I felt it was too colorful for Mirkwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Very well. Let's go into the games. And we'll begin with some pros of the games. And for the case of the Lord of the Rings Online, we do not go into the northern part of Mirkwood where it is ultra dense, trees so packed together you can't walk around, and elves leading you astray while you're trying to do your questing. Well, okay, we do have elves to deal with, but
We
it's a
do.
completely different set of elves.
They might as well be the same, the way they act.
Well, there is a little detail on that. But the forest is a bit thinner down here, most likely because Sauron was chopping down trees in order to use firewood or something like that over the years. So therefore, unlike the northern parts of Mirkwood that you go through in The Hobbit, you're in a part of Mirkwood which probably more corrupt than the rest of Mirkwood all put together, because you've got Dol Guldur sitting there right at your front step. It is at least you can look up and actually see maybe not perfect sunlight, but it at least isn't gray and oppressive like you would have in the books, because you're in a slightly more open area of the forest rather than its densest part that you travel through in The Hobbit. Ending?
I'm going to start with some of my pros. I think that they,
Start with some of your pros.
and then I'll transition to the cons. So I think they did a good job actually making it feel like a forest for the time that they were in. That was like, Mirkwood is the first place that actually kind of sort of feels like a real forest. My con, in contrast to that, is that Fangorn and later forests feel way more foresty than Mirkwood does, just because their tech's gotten better. And so my biggest con with Mirkwood in the game is that they made it in 2010.
Yeah.
I wish that they would have made it later, because it could have been so much better done, I think. To me, it feels it's like in that between stage of like the old way they used to do forests and the new way where it actually feels much more like a forest. And so I kind of wish that it was much more like Fangorn, although like you said, it probably isn't as dense. They can still put in that extra detail that's there in places like Fangorn that's just not there in Mirkwood. So that's my biggest con. Um, some other things is that silly disappearing dwarf quest that is impossible to do with the first time you go through it. Eventually you figure it out, but it's like, oh my gosh, it takes forever. And so, yeah, those are my two main cons. Does anybody else have any others?
I'm trying to remember Mirkwood. I didn't spend a lot of time there, but I seem to remember it being less like the quests and stuff that I was doing didn't seem to match with what was going on in the books there. Like it didn't seem like it was. I was like, okay, go here and collect these things, go here and do this thing, go here and kill these. I understand that that's like what you're gonna do in an MMO, and you go kill stuff, come back and tell me you did it, and then I'll go send you to kill more stuff. When I could have just sent you to kill both things at the same time and save us all time and energy in dialogue text.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like it didn't fit quite perfectly. Was my general sense. Granted, I didn't spend a lot of time in there, and I didn't really immerse myself in it and reading the quests super
Well,
thoroughly. But
it doesn't
in all
doesn't
fairness,
yeah, it doesn't fit perfectly, but it certainly fits 10 times better than it does in Moria.
Yeah.
Moria,
Well,
the disjointness of Moria between the epic storyline and the side quests bashes
Yeah.
me in the face every time I do Moria.
Yeah,
yeah.
Moria and Mirkwood are both really like dark areas, and some, like people when they talk about Moria, they talk about how they don't like it being dark all the time. When they talk about Mirkwood, they talk about how they don't like it being dark all the time. And so I think that, you know, they both have that type of a thing, and it makes players not want to go there. I'd much rather quest in Mirkwood than I would Moria, just because of the way that the quest design is, and also they, while it is all dark stuff, they have like the like different lighting and different color palettes, and so it's like they're starting to learn how to really diversify up similar environments, which they do even better later on in Rohan. And so I really do enjoy Mirkwood because it's like their first step into kind of how they design things now. So
and leading from that into the Paths of the Dead,
right.
like you can see the how far it's come in terms of getting the feeling and sensation of an area.
Well, I
Also, I
mean,
like Mirkwood better than Moria because stuff isn't on like 10 different levels.
yeah.
There's a map that works.
Yeah, the map actually works.
In the Scuttledells, there's some levels though. There's 3 different levels in a few parts in there.
Yeah, but after Moria, the Scuttledells was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
I think with Mirkwood in terms of the questing, how the whole thing is framed in this we're sieging the Dark Lord's palace, you know, and it's got that entire progression of every time you unlock a new quest hub, you and the Golden Host are pushing deeper and deeper into enemy territory, and all of the quests, be it the story or the side, they're taking you further along this campaign. So in this camp, you may be scouting perimeter, you may be finding out what happened to this other party, and while you're there, you're doing something epic related to sneaking some goblin guy commander through, finding the appropriate route. And while you're trying to do that, you're looking to see what kind of stuff you're going to run into. So it all kind of ties together. And I really enjoyed that about Mirkwood the
Well,
last time I went through it.
continuing on that, Carve, they made a point. This is the first battle in the War of the Ring. And they make it feel like it's the first battle. From that introduction to the various battles that go on and the amount of loss that's there. I mean, they do a great job making it feel like that you're actually fighting a war with these elves trying to retake a long lost home. And it's a
Yeah,
really
it's
cool
cool.
thing. Yeah.
My hunter's just starting Mirkwood.
Nice.
Okay. Let's look into donations. We currently have 13 supporters on Patreon. If you would like to join this illustrious raid of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards including a mention on the podcast of your choice or even be a guest host with us here on LOTRO Players News. And Ending, have we made any progress in recent weeks?
In recent weeks, yes. In this last week, no. But that's okay. We have 13 supporters, and we're $4 away from our Guild Wars giveaway, which will be giving away the expansion, which does include the base game. So if you're wanting to get into Guild Wars, that'd be cool to unlock. And we're only $4 away, and every single donation helps the Players Alliance. So.
Yeah, and of course, as we know that every group of 13 needs a 14th. Why do you think Bilbo joined the dwarves in the first place?
That's right. We need a burglar.
We need a burger. That's right.
Looking for someone to share an adventure.
Let's head into our feedback, and we actually have reviews this week. Our first of two reviews is from Roanna29 and Terry. What did Roanna say?
Not quite as fun as playing LOTRO itself. One of the things MMOs offer that single-player games don't is other people. The LOTRO community is a diverse and welcoming one largely brought together by a love of Tolkien's works, but kept there by a game that is fun even when it's frustrating. The group of podcasters, disclosure here, one of whom I play LOTRO with, shows the best aspects of the community and the game, off with a sense of fun and camaraderie that makes me want to fire up my launcher and join the fun. There's a mix of old and new players, and really the amount of fun this group has chatting each other up is truly infectious. If you play the game already or are just curious about whether it's worth checking in on this podcast, this podcast will be for you. Keep it up, Andang, Maven, Terry Adwin, Erith, Carvet, and his family, and of course Pineleaf. Is there a fan group for him yet?
There needs to be. Let's get on that this week, everybody. This week, let's get a Pineleaf Facebook page, forum thing. Get something up. The Pineleaf fan group. Buy a domain. You know, there's domains over at MMO Reporter that they have a special code for. Get that. Get the discount. You know, let's make this happen, everybody. We need the Pineleaf fan group. He got a Twitter. We need to continue this momentum years later and make this happen so that we can have the Pineleaf fan group be the biggest fan group ever in LOTRO Players News history, which is really just one small fan. So let's do it, everybody. Let's make this happen.
The great thing is that if we do that and have like a Facebook fan club page, we can get someone to draw him on a dolphin.
Right.
We can see it.
Dolphin.
And Zinger says he's already featured in a video game. So there you go. You're already in a game, Pineleaf. It's great. We need a Pineleaf fan club. This needs to happen.
Your legacy is assured, Pineleaf.
As long as those monthly payments to that website keep coming.
I think you left.
And Gumsgang also left us a review, and Erithert, what did Gumsgang say?
It's pine-tastic. Do Slayer deeds get you in a slump? One more half troll and you're going to hurl? What's the other half anyways? Put on an episode of LOTRO Players News to brighten your day. Every episode is guaranteed to be at least 4.5 times more fun than counting ceiling tiles. Thank you for all you do, COVID.
At least 4.5 times. Not just 4 times, but not quite 5. 4.5 times.
I know.
More fun than counting
More
ceiling
fun
tiles.
than counting ceiling tiles. All right. We have a featured comment this week from Tim Hedden and Anding. What did Tim say?
Yes, well, he says, wonderful, great series. At some point, please cover the Nameless. Those dreadful creatures in the Foundations of Stone need some explanation. I feel they are close to what you covered in this episode, and he is referring to the LOTRO and Lore episode this week. And I agree, that would be an awesome thing to hear about how the Nameless tie into stuff in Tolkien.
Yes, but what will you call them?
Nameless, Pineleaf. Nameless.
I got it finally.
Nameless. I did
Dark
too.
and nameless.
That's
I didn't
that's
laugh.
2 jokes
Say,
in one evening.
Is
from
that how you
Pineleaf.
call them? You call them, hey, Nameless. Right? And then they all come running.
I named my Raven Raven, Trish. What do you think is gonna happen?
This
What's
week
the
we
Raven?
did. This week we did not receive any emails, but if you'd like to send us one, send it to podcast@lotroplayers.com. You could also follow us at Twitter. The Players Alliance at Players Ally, Lotro Players at Lotro Players, Andang at PVMP_Andang, Erithert at Erithert, Carvet at Carvet LP, Lily Kate at Lily Kate Buggins, Maven at Tolkien Maven, Pineleaf at Pineleaf Needles, and Terry Adwin at Terry Adwin. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join us for our live shows at lotroplayers.com/live. Thank you everyone for listening. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.